Thank you. And the first item on our agenda is the COVID-19 response and renewal report for Black Creek Oyster Bay Services for receipt.
Move number 1.
Moved. I'll second for receipt. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And does anyone on staff want to make a presentation on this?
James Warren will just provide a brief summary, and then Chris LaRose and James Baster are both here to answer any questions you may have of either fire or water.
Okay.
Thank you, Russell. As Russell says, I've just got a very brief summary. The directors will remember that in May, the CVRD board approved a response and renewal framework to be able to look at the COVID-19 pandemic and how it is affecting our services. And so we've staff have taken a deep dive into looking at all of our services, and we're presenting a series of reports to committee and commission and board meetings to just try to understand where there may be some changes to program delivery, service delivery, potentially canceling projects or deferring projects, looking at cost reductions and savings that we would be expecting to see as a result of COVID-19, and looking to adjust our services to align more with the board's intent of providing stable, sustainable services, keeping services affordable, looking to partner more collaboratively across the region and with our neighbors in that. And so for this report today to the Black Creek Oyster Bay Services, we are of course looking at our fire services and our water supply and distribution in the Black Creek Oyster Bay area. There are a couple of highlights to note. Of course, fire protection and water service are both critical and necessary in that when the pandemic first arrived, these two services in particular did not see any reduction in activities. Of course, water supply and fire protection are necessary for community well-being. And so, however, James Bast and Chris LaRose are both here to speak to any of the other highlights that maybe the directors want to look into when it comes to either renewing or continuing with the services that we have. I should note that the staff report does speak to our asset management driven rate increases, and the original intent was to take a look at deferring some of those sets of analyses during this review, deferring those to a future time. I think for the EASC anyways, the decision is made that the rate review is important to continue with, and providing a full set of information for the directors to consider those rate implications during budget time coming into 2021. And I see on this agenda we don't have a rate review staff report, a separate rate review staff report. And so although this staff report does speak to deferring asset management driven rate increases, so I believe that rate review is still important to do, and then it would just inform the directors with the full set of information coming forward into budget time. So perhaps between Chris and Russell and myself, we can provide some more assessment of that if need be. But at this point, I'd like to just turn it over to the directors if you have any questions of us around this response report.
Any questions or comments? Director Grieve?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So it's basically steady as she goes at this point. We're just doing what's needed, not going after any new big initiatives. Insofar as the fire service goes, is there any looming big capital replacement costs coming up, trucks or whatever? Are we in pretty good shape? We can hold our own?
Through the chair, in discussions with all of the fire chiefs, we reviewed all of the capital projects, and we're confident that we can continue on with the capital projects that are in the future. But there is no looming large capital purchases that we haven't taken into account.
Okay. Okay, so are there any other comments or information coming forward? Seeing none, I would request that the recommendation be moved.
Move the recommendation.
Second, moved and seconded. All in favor? Opposed, carried. Okay, then on to the CVRD Fire Department operational guidelines for receipt.
Move the report for receipt.
Second, all in favor? Opposed, carried, and is presenting.
Thank you very much. And James Bast is here, our Manager of Fire Services, will outline this report and answer any questions that the directors may have.
Thanks, James.
Perfect. Thank you. Through the chair, the operational guidelines for the fire service, they provide that the fire departments will provide that service in a safe and efficient manner and within all of the regulations and legislation and so on. And so the operational guidelines culminates all of the operational guidelines, ensures that they meet within all of the federal, provincial regulations and so on. And with that, we've created the document. It's a modern document that's updatable. It provides for the individual fire departments to have operational guidelines that are specific to their needs, as well as operational guidelines that are specific to the requirements of the regional district. With that, I'm available for any questions, as is Chief Green.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments? Seemed pretty standard to me, just updating for a few of the new policies, you know, LGBTQ stuff and respectful workplace stuff. So seems pretty normal. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we have a recommendation that the board endorse the Comox Valley Regional District Fire Service Operational Guidelines Manual as a guiding operational document for the CVRD fire departments.
I'll make that motion.
Second, moved and seconded, all in favor, opposed, carried. Onward to BCOB Water Service and Oyster River Nature Park. We have a verbal report from staff.
Thank you very much, Chair and Director. And Chris LaRose is here. Will provide a summary of this verbal update and answer any of your questions with respect to this project.
Okay, Chris.
Thanks, Russell. Good morning, everyone. So after working with the help of the province early this year, the SRD is now provided in writing support for the third well project, subject to agreeing on the terms of the access agreement. So that access agreement had been carried forward to almost final stage in 2018 before the project hit a few road bumps and went on pause. So we've now circulated that access agreement, and we're working closely with staff who seem committed and cooperative to resolving it. And we've communicated our clear deadline for reaching that final agreement that's needed to get the project completed in time for the grant funding.
Good.
So they've also provided the approval to drill the well immediately. So just to clarify that, the project is, in terms of capital cost, is largely installing pipes and electrical conduit and pumps and connection to the treatment plant. Drilling the well is actually a relatively small portion of the work, but it's needed immediately so that we can feed the results of the subsequent pump test into the detailed design. So SRD's has approved the concept of drilling immediately. So we're working with their park staff now to determine a date, that type of thing. And then so we've agreed that we will not award the construction contract until that access agreement is finalized. And we've set a deadline of early October for that. So we're feeling optimistic right now about our chances of getting this work done by the March 31st deadline for making full use of the grant funding. So we've done some additional kind of refreshing of the cost estimates. And we're feeling that there may just be a fairly modest increase to the capital costs of this project, even despite the 3-year delay. But we'll know more once the tender comes back in. So at this point, we're not proposing to bring forward an amendment, but if the tender does come in above what we've got in the financial plan, then we'll be bringing it forward to the committee for a review before awarding.
Okay, any questions or comments for Chris? Director Grieve?
Well, just basically, I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank our staff for moving slowly and plodding along on this project for over 3 years now. And I think that at the end of the day that the steadfast commitment to the water service has finally kind of won out over a lot of other issues. And my only question was, you said that we were looking at the deadline of March 31st for our grant that's been extended. So does that mean that there has to be a substantial completion of the project by then? Or that the money, it has to be committed by then?
No, the program requires that essentially all eligible costs must be complete by the end of March. So if the project stretches beyond March 31st, then those costs that are incurred beyond March 31st are not eligible costs to claim. So so in order to make full use of the grant funding, it must be completed by the end of March.
And you're saying the actual well itself is kind of a minor part of the project, that the distribution from the well and all that infrastructure takes more time to do?
That's right. Yeah. So it's roughly 20% of the capital cost is punching the hole in the ground and running the pump test.
Okay.
And then the remainder of the cost is finishing the well, installing the pipes, the water pipes and the connections and the controls and electrical, and then tying all of that into the treatment plant is the bulk.
Are they submersible pumps?
Yes. Yeah.
So they run right there. They run in the well.
Yeah, they're sitting at the bottom of the well. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when do we actually foresee punching the hole?
We're hoping to do that in August, so within 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So good progress.
Yeah, great progress. Right now we're feeling optimistic. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to thank us again. I'd like to thank staff for moving resolutely on this project, and also thank our neighbors to the north, SRD, for coming along and finally getting the approvals in place for us. So thanks very much.
Thanks, Director Grieve. Okay, and I was also wondering about, I was going to ask a question from the chair to Chris about the environmental assessment review, because it's coming in the end of the summer. The fish will start running in September, and that's perfect time for doing that. Are we underway with the environmental assessment review?
So the environmental flow needs assessment. So the status of that is we recently submitted our change of works application to Front Counter BC. And with that, upon receipt of that application, there's now a file in place. So we had informal conversations with Flinro staff prior to that, but now that application has been received, we now they now have a formal mandate to discuss with us exactly what that analysis will look like to support the change of works. Because what we're proposing to do is right now we just have a single surface water license that covers the infiltration gallery. And as you know, over the last few years, there's been a shift under the Water Sustainability Act to register and license groundwater wells as well. So what we're proposing to do is, instead of, because of the proximity of those wells, they are effectively withdrawing from the river. Instead of requesting additional license capacity for those groundwater wells, we're proposing to transfer some of our surface water license to those groundwater wells, including the new one. So they need a change of works, because we're effectively proposing to change the intake location for some of that license capacity. So So yeah, we expect to be meeting formally with Flinro staff starting shortly to figure out, hammer out exactly what that environmental flow needs assessment will look like.
Good,
Yeah.
thank you. Well, thanks for everything that, and all the patience that everyone's had with this issue. It's been a challenge, to be sure. And yeah, thanks. And so we look forward to getting reports of the well being finished and things moving along. That's good. So we need a receipt of the report, please.
I'll move that.
Moved, I'll second. Moved and seconded to receive the verbal report. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, any new business? No addendum? Media, not here. So all we have is termination.
Just a question through the staff. Are we going to now communicate this to the public? Is there a communication plan on the well at this point?
It is public knowledge. This is video conferenced and as well as a public agenda. We can answer any questions. We don't have a formal news release at this time, but certainly as the project proceeds or during milestones, we will help inform you through this venue of the committee.
So maybe we'll drill a well and we'll strike oil instead.
Well, are there going to be any public events like sod turning or anything like that for it to announce the beginning of the project, or we're just gonna proceed?
Perhaps what we can do is work with the committee to, assuming everything goes well and it's a success, is that when the water is turned on, there be some form of event at that time, and we can look at coordinating that. Because certainly once it's online and the availability of the water is a milestone that we'll want to celebrate with you.
Okay, sounds good, eh? Okay, so then all we have is the termination. Motion to adjourn, all in favor, opposed, carried. We're done.